What's up, guys? This is Carter Thomas with Coin Mastery TV. Make sure you go to coinmastery.com/invest and sign up for the newsletter. Join us on this incredible journey to infinity and beyond. Welcome back. Happy Monday. Quite an interesting weekend for all of you price watchers out there. Today we're talking a little bit about what's going on with our good old friend Bitcoin and with Litecoin, one of my personal favorites. We're going to look at how this impacts altcoins, specifically something we touched on last week, I believe, with decisions you can be making for your altcoins. We're going to look into Circle acquiring Poloniex, which was kind of the big news this morning as it relates to the whole crypto space. We're going to talk about a bigger macro issue with companies and nationalization of crypto. And then finally, I got a resource I think that you guys should check out. So thanks for joining. As always, our daily reminder that none of this is professional advice. I am just sharing my opinion. So thanks for coming, guys. Now let's just pop this open. We're looking at the 1 day here. And there's two things to keep in mind. Now, I am learning, all right? So I'm a student of technical analysis, and as I go, I'm trying to get better and better, but I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible because one, I think that the more complicated it gets, the less conclusions you can draw. And secondly, the more complicated, the harder it is to get it all right. So I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible. I would encourage everybody, go to tradingview.com and look through other people's technical analysis. That is an incredible resource. It's something I did all weekend, and I think it's really, really helpful. But when we look back, I'm looking at the Bitcoin Daily on Coinbase, which is GDAX. It's the same trading engine. You could see that it bounced off of this 9,300 level, and it's really doing pretty good job this past day. Now, the other interesting thing is that yesterday, I think it's 4 o'clock Pacific on Sundays, the weekly candle closes and then a new one starts. So that was another interesting way, because a lot of traders who are doing long-term trading, they will look at weekly candles as a long-term trade. So let's always keep that in mind as to the different time frames you're on. So looking at this, you could see that this support zone held pretty well. Now, I was personally waiting for this 8,800. It did not get down there on this particular down cycle. Will it get down there? I don't know. I'm still going to wait for it because you just never know. But there is some decent volume that would point to this making a second push. So when you're looking at these levels, you can see that it bounced off of this, and you can definitely, let's get into the 4 hours, probably a good one. You can see this morning, the Circle news was a big part of that, among other things. That's really what drove the momentum back this morning, but that's got to fill in some way. We're really going to watch this support, make sure it holds. It did get tested a couple of times, which is good, but the volume just, I don't know. There's something about it that just doesn't have the same, it doesn't feel like rocket fuel. And that's kind of what you want, knowing that this pink purple line up here, this is the real name of the game. And we need massive juice, not only to get through this, but to get all the way above these next major resistance zones. One's going to be at 11.7, 11.8, and then the big one will be right around 13.7, 13.8. So we really need more days like today, really. We need more news coming out. We need more people fired up, more people coming in. But that's what you can be watching. And if you want to try to recreate this, first of all, go on tradingview.com, watch what other people are doing, find your own trading style. But I just connected the top of this, and this is I did this on the daily chart. You could connect the top of the trend, connect it to the second big high, and then that creates your trend line. Now, technically, you want three points on it to make it a really legit trend line, but we actually hit that. We crossed it for a minute, but it bounced off of that pretty quickly. So this is going to be the next big one. One thing, and for any technical analysts out there, obviously you know this, one thing that you should keep in mind is that we use the log function a lot when we're looking at price action, but when you're doing TA, it's actually often better not to use the log function if you're looking just for price levels and price support, because the log can change the way that you draw your trend line. So just keep that in mind as you're trying to, depending on how you look at your charts. It's just something that I noticed. It may seem obvious to a lot of people, but like I said, we're just making this work. But I think that this is the story, right? Where is the support level? Will it break through this trend line? And then we're going to go from there. Now, the other big news is Litecoin. Now, you guys know I've been pumping Litecoin for as hard as I could, trying to get people to get in on it for weeks and weeks and weeks. I think Litecoin's got a lot of juice left for the year. And what's funny is that there's so many people that many people do like Litecoin, but there's so many people that hate Litecoin because they're like, oh, it doesn't do anything. It's not unique, especially with Bitcoin coming out with Lightning Network and maybe with Bitcoin Cash to a certain extent. But people are often say, oh, Litecoin's got nothing special. I think that's such a good bullish reason in my opinion, to buy, because it has a brand. And the reason the fact that it's not Bitcoin is the reason why it could go big. And you got to realize how powerful brands and stories are when it comes to the marketing and sales side of any business or any development, really. Is that you got products, you've got development, you've got architecture, you got all that. But how people perceive it is really how things get implemented and how things grow and how decisions are made. And so while some people look at this as, I would say 2016-ish, Litecoin was just the silver to Bitcoin's gold. It was just kind of the baby brother. But now it's the currency versus, that's the kind of it's the light pay, all that sort of thing. And that is why I think it's got a lot of juice, because it's a different brand. And that's a marketer speaking more than a financial, whatever you want to call investor. So looking at this, I think that this, I'm looking at Bittrex on this because with Coinbase's LTC, BTC chart, there's a lot of flash crashes which mess up your charts, which is really annoying. But so on the Bittrex, same structure. We've seen this time and time again over the last couple months. We've talked about this type of chart structure, which almost kind of has the stairs look to it, where it has a huge spike, either accumulation or a retracement phase, then a huge spike, accumulation, retracement. And many coins have followed this over the last year or so. And when you look at Litecoin, we've got this current situation where we did the double top on the all-time high. And then this past week, we blew back the all-time high. We hit a 50% retracement, which if you look at this, boom. It's like almost textbook right there, right down to the 50%. And now it's coming back up. It's getting tested. You're going to see another 50% retracement. It's going to stay above this line. Right? So the key is previous resistance, which is what this is, needs to become support in order to get into this new channel, this horizontal level channel, whatever you want to call it. And then we got really uncharted territory. Go back to 2015, all-time high of 0.323, give or take. We get up to those levels, then it's party time. So what you really want to be looking at is how does this hold up against this support level? Now, obviously, it just broke through here. So you look back down at this support level where you can see how this previous resistance and see how well it holds up there. If it does hold up there, that's a good sign. But we need it to really close out with some larger candles up above this yellow line for it to be real big time movement. I love Litecoin. I'm very bullish on Litecoin. I still think this is still a complete nobody knows in terms of Bitcoin price, but I'm focused mostly on Litecoin as I have been for the last 3 weeks. Now, the big news with altcoins, I think, is something that we touched on, but I want to make sure that this is a really important point to hammer home And many of you may have experienced this over the last weekend, and that is as Bitcoin rises, or as it goes, as it does whatever it does, you may see altcoins start to accelerate and beat Bitcoin's price. And so it's tempting to say, okay, well, we hit the support, we're on our way back up, or whatever it may be, it's a breakout, to move your Bitcoin slowly over to altcoins. Because in the short term, the altcoins are outperforming Bitcoin, as we saw last week, a lot of that, and even over the weekend to a certain extent. However, when Bitcoin when it starts to get some real juice, right, like the real momentum, which is probably what we can expect over the next 6 months or so, there will be moments of real fire, explosion. Altcoins get killed because the SAT value goes way down. Bitcoin's accelerating faster than the altcoins do. Meaning, it's really, really important to keep some Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever it is you're using to buy altcoins, to keep some on the sidelines, even during these big bull runs. Because if Bitcoin keeps accelerating, these altcoins will eventually start to get smoked, just like they did last summer, and you're going to miss out on some really good deals. And you can see that today. There's kind of a good gut check, and we may see a bounce back from this, but keep that in mind. And I'm saying this mostly so that I remind myself over and over to do this because it's so tempting. But keep some, not only fiat, but keep some Bitcoin there in case you want to buy altcoins down the road, and Bitcoin or Ethereum totally accelerate past the altcoin growth. All right, now let's talk about the big news of the day, which is that Circle bought Poloniex. I believe they bought them for $400 million. Cool, $400 million. Excuse me. It's crazy to think how. I know Poloniex does some volume. I know they were a really big deal back in 2014, 15, and even 16. Trollbox was like the thing. But it's kind of stagnated. The support is essentially non-existent to most broadly speaking. And if you don't know, Circle is kind of like a Square competitor, right? It's a way to Venmo. You can just send money to people. So at first you're like, man, why would this company buy an altcoin exchange? That doesn't make a lot of sense. And I'll link all this stuff up, all the Bitcoin. But when you start to dig in, you start to realize that there's more to it than this. And this is how mergers and acquisitions work. This is how a lot of venture capital works. First thing to know, Digital Currency Group is an investor in Circle. That's not very surprising, is that Digital Currency Group is basically trying to own the entire crypto space. They own the big money in Coinbase, big money in Circle. That's what they do. However, if you go back, you do a little digging, go see back in 2015, Circle got a bunch of money from Goldman Sachs. All right, so they didn't get all $50 million from Goldman Sachs. They were part of a $50 million syndicate. So let's just Circle bought Poloniex. Circle is owned by not only Digital Currency Group but also by Goldman Sachs. They have a vested interest in that. While this is happening, I'll go to this first. What people don't see behind the cute little app of Circle Payments is that they have one of the biggest OTC trade desks for crypto out there, right? So they're doing $2 billion a month in crypto OTC. If you don't know what that means, it means over-the-counter trading. It's like if I wanted to buy 40 million in Bitcoin, I couldn't go on GDAX and buy $40 million. That would, first of all, you couldn't do it. Second of all, it would move the price like $1,000 or whatever. And so these services come out where they say, okay, Carter's got $40 million to spend. I'm not saying I have that money, but like if I had $40 million to spend and you would match me with somebody who has, say, 4,000 Bitcoin, and we could just broker the deal 1-to-1 off the market. That's what OTC is. And OTC is actually a huge, huge business. There's almost more OTC trades than it's like a huge percentage of the overall trade volume when you add it up. So this app, Circle, has a payment processing app, but it's also doing like a massive amount of OTC crypto. It's also got Goldman Sachs and Digital Currency Group as investors. This and then Poloniex has all the altcoins. It has regulatory, they've already made inroads to regulatory compliance. It's got a huge customer database. There's a clear fiat on-ramp altcoin customer profit center. Okay, like there's a lot going on here that many people don't realize. So that's what's happening on the crypto side. Then you go over on the retail side, which is in CNBC headlines what 95% of the public thinks about crypto. And Goldman Sachs, as of today, they just labeled crypto as a business risk. Just like we talked about last week with Bank of America and their 10K and everything else, they released a statement saying that this is a big risk and, crypto is a threat to our business and it's trouble, blah, blah, blah. We can't facilitate crypto and all that. So Goldman, the bank, as it talks to its customers, as it relates to news, is saying crypto is still bad. Yet on the investment side, they're buying up they're making a large, they are indirectly making inroads into something like this. And I'm not saying that they necessarily directed this trade or this merger, acquisition, I should say, but they were obviously involved. If they really felt like this was a huge business risk, they could put the brakes on something like this, or at least they could sell their stake in the company. But of course they didn't, because at the end of the day, they're here to make money. And so you could see how this game is being played. All right, this is how the game is played. Is that what you see and what you read and what you hear is not necessarily what's going on. That's why you always want to see what people do, not what they say. It's always the way to get to any sort of truth. Look at actions. The thing is, actions are rarely transparent. You got to do a little bit of digging, and even this is not that deep due diligence. This took 20 minutes. You can figure this stuff out. But it does make you think, okay? Somebody was going to make a move. This is a very, very interesting move. Now, there is also some rumors about Goldman Sachs potentially building their own trading pool with zero access protocol called the OceanX project. I don't know if that's confirmed yet. We'll see what happens, but this is a bit like this is how they do it. This is how they get control. This is how they make money on crypto. Everyone's like, oh, well, how do they buy all this Bitcoin? And you're like, well, if they own the exchange, they could do a lot of stuff that they don't like. They can do a whole lot. So very, very interesting developments. Now, the other big development that we're starting to see, and I think that this is going to be a big deal in the next year, maybe even 2 years. And Ari Paul talked a lot about this on his interview on Crypto Bobby's channel. Or I should say he mentioned this towards the end of it, which I thought was just a super fascinating point. The idea of countries that turn their nationalized currency into a cryptocurrency. Now we're seeing with Venezuela, with Iran, to a certain extent with China. Now we're seeing it more with something like Switzerland, where they're saying that there's a lot of good things about this. Now there's a huge, there's a lot that goes into the ramifications of a government releasing a cryptocurrency. And then let's say doomsday here. Let's say they eliminate fiat and they just had a cryptocurrency or something like that. Think about how much they could know every single dollar ever. They could track everything you ever bought, ever moved, ever used, every bank account you ever touched. Like everything would be on the blockchain or on a distributed ledger or distributed grid or anything. And that's pretty crazy. It also means that there's going to be, it makes you realize how much we all value privacy. More importantly, how much we value the ability to choose who sees what we do, whether that be with credit cards or just with cash. You don't necessarily want every single thing you do being a matter of public record. And so this is going to be an interesting trend. I think as an investor, it makes you more and more bullish on privacy coins. To be perfectly honest, I think that's going to be the big takeaway, because people will, the more this becomes a controlled thing, the more people will value their own sovereignty, basically. But keep an eye on how this goes down. The Venezuela thing is kind of a, I don't even know if you can take that seriously, the way that that's playing out. The Iran thing, we'll see how that goes. I think China is going to be the real, because they're going to take it to the extreme. They are big on shutting down the borders, having firewalls, controlling everything. If they're going to do it big time, watch them. But keep an eye on this stuff. This is a big deal. Make sure you got some. Privacy is going to be a huge piece of the puzzle over the next 2 to 5 years. All right. So that's all the crypto stuff. This last one says nothing to do with cryptocurrency whatsoever. He mentions actually crypto at the end of this podcast, but I cannot urge anybody enough to go and listen to this podcast with Terry Crews and Tim Ferriss. I'm not going to harp on this. It's really, really, really good. And if nothing else, I think that if 5% of the people watching or listening to this go and listen to this, I think 5% of those people, this is going to have a huge impact on you. And that's really important. I think the one thing that I think anybody can take away from this, just as a Cliff's Notes, one piece among the millions of incredible stories that they talk about, is this idea of, what was the book? It's like The Key to Mastery or something. The Master Key System. I have not read this book, but I want to. And it talks about how one of the keys to getting what you want is to become that person, to do the things that person become, and then you have it. And let me explain that as it relates to cryptocurrency, because this is a big deal with crypto. And this is something that a lot of people forget and a lot of people will miss over the next year or two. Maybe have already missed it in 2016, 17. I don't want that to keep happening. Let's say your goal is to make $1 million. Okay? Or let's say it's 1,000 Bitcoin, right? More crypto friendly. And you look at the 1,000 Bitcoin to come up with all these strategies, these how-to guides, and you want to learn technical analysis. You want to learn how to do, maybe like you want to get sucked into day trading. Maybe you want to network. You do all this stuff. But you never actually look at yourself as somebody who already has 1,000 Bitcoin. You're like, well, I'm here with whatever you have. Or maybe, I guess it's 100 Bitcoin is $1 million. I want 100, and 100 Bitcoin is like out in the future. That's a different person. So when I'm there, things are going to change. And that's one of the biggest mistakes people make when it comes to wealth accumulation, but really with anything in life. I mean, if you want to become a really good athlete, or you want to become a really good partner, husband or wife or whatever, like you have to sit down every day and you have to like feel what it's like to be that person. Imagine you already have it. And then you start thinking about what would you do each day if you already had this thing. So if you already had 100 Bitcoin in your wallet and every day it was there, how would you feel differently every single day? What different decisions would you make? How do people with $1 million or 100 Bitcoin, how do they go about their day differently? How do they make decisions? And the key is, once you start thinking like that, then you start doing stuff the same way that somebody who already has it would do. You start making decisions like you're a millionaire. And lo and behold, when you start making decisions like that, you start to get the thing that you want. You start to have it. It starts to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. So you become that person, and you become that person by studying people, by being inspired, by thinking about it, by meditating on it, by reading, by writing. Like, you just visualize it. Then you start doing things as if you already have it. Now, the best way to do that is to find somebody who already has it and do what they do, or imagine yourself doing what they do in their shoes. And then you will get it. I cannot stress this enough, that when you are in this game, when you're in any game, but crypto is a really good example. If you do not spend at least 10 to 20 minutes a day putting yourself in the shoes of where you want to be, it's going to be virtually impossible to make decisions that will get you to that place. And this is only one piece of this interview. I really encourage everybody to listen to it, but it's so good. And sometimes I think that more than cryptocurrency, it's one of the gifts of having so many subscribers is that I can share this kind of stuff more than price and whatever. So go check it out. You'll see what I mean. In the meantime, we're going to keep an eye on Bitcoin, on Litecoin, and everything else. Happy Monday, guys. Great to be back. As always, I will catch you tomorrow. All right, peace out.